I investigated adrenochrome harvesting back in July of 2017. I found some information around the topic back then, but as of now, since scandals have broke relating to sexual abuse and paedophilia within Hollywood and politics, I've come across more information which takes you to the bottom of the rabbit hole. With sources from the FBI to the CIA to the military and Navy, I like to call this information Rabbitholegate.
What is this shit?
That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome? Where'd you get this?
Never mind, it's absolutely pure.
What kind of monster client have you hooked up with this time?
Satanism freak.
I think there's only one source for this stuff. The adrenaline gland from a living human body.
I know.
Adrenochrome is a chemical compound which is produced in the human body when adrenaline oxidizes. Adrenochrome has been being used since ancient times as a way to get high. During rituals, Satanists induce terror in their victims, increasing the amount of adrenochrome produced in the victim's blood. At the peak moment of terror, the Satanists kill the victims, then drink their blood, receiving an incredible high. When ingested, adrenochrome triggers a psychotic response and induces thought disorder, derealization, and euphoria. For the highest spiritual working, one must accordingly choose a victim which contains the greatest and purest force of energy. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most sought after for the rituals. Almost every adrenochrome harvesting ritual is carried out on a child.
When they torture the children, it causes a physical reaction of the endomorphins in your body to just increase because of the terror and the pain. So when the Satanists drink the blood, they actually get like a chemical, a high, like a drug high from the blood of a tortured victim. And this little boy was found in the basement dead, with no blood, skinned alive and crucified. This cannot happen to any more children. I can't do it alone. My children are there. It's really hard. I need each one of you to know this is not a fairy tale. This is not something out of science fiction. I was a mom who ran a charity and baked oatmeal cookies for my kids. And because my children are victims, I have to stand here and I have to tell you these horrible stories.
Now, let me just point out that pedophilia does not stop with sodomizing children. It goes straight into terrorizing them to adrenalize their blood and then murdering them. It also includes murdering them so that they can have their bone marrow harvested as well as body parts.
They put them through the sacrifice ritual and they build up the terror. What happens is the terror reaches a point where a certain adrenaline pours into the blood, and the people doing the ritual then drink that blood and they get a real high from that adrenaline.
What they need is, for it to be secreted in the blood, is they need terrorization of their victims before they are killed for their blood. And they have to terrorize them to get this to come out in the blood and be secreted in the blood. They are killed at that moment as they are staring into their eyes, and they will drink, and they drink the blood, and the blood is highly sought after. Then they have these children that they're kidnapping and bringing in from other countries, and no one misses them because these are third world countries.
See on worse than before because they're using all these kids arriving with the refugees. They are taking them from the boats directly and bringing them in their pedophile networks, taking their organs. They found hundreds of emptied bodies put back together in Egypt and in other places before. This is scandalous. I think this is really becoming revolting.
And children they have the most energy, the purest energy, they're the highest form of sacrifice. They are used as actual blood sacrifices during these rituals.
From as early as the Aztec civilization, adrenochrome harvesting had been taking place. They would carry out blood sacrifices on children in order to honor dark forces. In 6 months of the year, Aztecs would carry out adrenochrome harvesting. Adrenochrome harvesting was widespread throughout the ancient world. It also took place in ancient Egypt and was carried out by Persians who traveled to ancient Asia. Adrenochrome harvesting was forbidden in ancient Greece, but underground groups continued to carry it out. Pre-Christian cults also banned adrenochrome harvesting, but it was continued symbolically through major Christianity as wine began to be used to represent the blood of Christ. During the 15th century, Vlad Dracula, also known as Vlad the Impaler, was one of the most famous Satanists ever. He carried out adrenochrome harvesting. It was from this where the folklore of vampires came about, hence the name Dracula.
The Queen's, present Queen's grandmother is a direct descendant from the sister of Vlad Dracul, on whom the Dracula stories are named, based. So Diana knew this, and then I come across people like an American lady, Arizona Wilder, who again was involved in a victim of this mind control project and was used to conduct rituals for them. Under a mind controlled state, they are mind controlled to conduct these rituals in a certain way.
And these were taking place on royal properties in Scotland?
Yes, exactly, in Balmoral, and there's a particular place in Belgium which is known as the Mothers of Darkness Castle, which is funnily located in the same area that child murder and satanic ring was based, that came to light, clearly involving the establishment figures of Belgium, and was a massive cover-up. When a real investigator, a prosecutor, got involved, of course, they had to get rid of him, and 300,000 Belgians went on the march one day in protest at the cover-up. Well, all these things interconnect.
Adrenochrome harvesting still continues in modern day society. It gets no media coverage as the Satanists which carry it out are high-ranking politicians and influential people who have their grip on this world. In the 1980s, former FBI chief Ted Gunderson started investigating Satanism and adrenochrome harvesting. What he found was sickening.
I noticed that there were strong indications of corruption. So I asked myself, what's going on here? And over the years, I started gathering material until about 2 years ago. Up until about 2 years ago, I kept saying there's a loose-knit network operating in this country involving drugs, pedophilia, pornography, prostitution, corruption, etc., etc. 2 years ago, from my research, I'm convinced it's much more serious than that. It's more than a loose-knit network. It is a conspiracy. And you know how the news media comes after us, and we use the word C, conspiracy, that C word. Well, they can come after me all they like, because I guarantee you, right here and now, we do have a conspiracy, and I'm going to prove it to you here today. Now, one of the things that convinced me and really got me started in this regard, by the way, this conspiracy involves pornography, drugs, corruption, involves pedophilia, involves organized child kidnapping rings, the finders out of Washington, D.C., CIA cover, covert operations involved in the international trafficking of children, terrorism, bank accounts, and it goes on.
Global criminal elements of worldwide governments had been involved in gigantic satanic and paedophilia rings. There are groups within this world which carry out these satanic rituals. They consist of lower level groups and elite groups, but in the end, they work in unison. The small level are ancestral families who use incest on their kids. The parents would have been victims of abuse, they then continue this on their kids, and the cycle continues. It is once these families are caught, the children are taken by bigger elitist groups which continue to abuse the children and use them in satanic rituals. The elitist groups consist of politicians and hidden hands which ultimately have control over the world. A victim who managed to escape from these satanic rings is Kathy O'Brien. She was born in 1957 in Muskegon, Michigan. She was raised within a multi-generational, incest-based family. Her father would abuse her from the moment she was born, replacing her mother's nipple for milk with his penis. He was caught by the authorities after sending child pornography by the US Postal Service. Instead of being locked up, he was contacted by members of the US government to give Kathy over to elite Satanist groups to allow them to carry out further abuse. After he agreed, he was granted immunity of prosecution as a means of national security purposes. Kathy O'Brien was saved from the elite satanic ring by an ex-CIA worker by the name of Mark Phillips. Kathy O'Brien's first blood ritual she was involved in was called by the Satanists the right to remain silent.
I developed another compartment to deal with the child pornography that my father was subjecting me to. He was earning his living as a worm digger on a 6th grade education and supplemented the family income with child pornography that was being distributed through the local Michigan mafia pornography ring. At that time, there's a criminal faction of our government that was interested in targeting children such as myself for mind control, because this compartmentalization of memory was something that they deemed ideal for keeping government secrets. After all, if I couldn't think to remember, how could I tell about it? I was a chosen one, or a prime candidate, for mind control because of the sexual abuse that I had endured. My sexuality had been enhanced. Therefore, I was used as a sex slave and also delivered messages to and from these government leaders. At that time, because a government, this criminal faction of our government, was so interested in dissociative identity disordered persons, they knew that any child that was subjected to child pornography had to have endured trauma so horrible that they had to be suffering from that disorder. Therefore, this criminal faction of our government sanctioned this child pornography ring. The politician who was protecting this Michigan mafia pornography ring was a guy named Gerald Ford. This is the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the first unelected president of the United States. Gerald Ford, I never perceived his political affluence. I only perceived him as another abuser like my father, because Gerald Ford also sexually abused me as a child and sexually abused me right on through my mind control victimization until Mark rescued my daughter Kelly and I in 1988. Gerald Ford is not a pedophile per se. He's what I refer to as trisexual. He'll try anything. Any age, anybody, anytime, anywhere, just as long as he had control. Because he had a perversion of power, in addition to his interest in mind control. Therefore, it was Gerald Ford who came out to our house and explained to my father how to raise me in the project according to government specifications. My father had been caught sending this child pornography through the U.S. mails, and therefore he was approached and told that if he sold me into that project, that he would gain immunity from prosecution. My father remains free from prosecution to date for so-called reasons of national security. My father thought it was just absolutely wonderful, and immediately sold me into the project. He felt like the government condoned child abuse. So did I. One of my sexual abusers at that time was the Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau is a professed Jesuit. Now, the Jesuits are an intelligence arm of the Catholic Vatican. There's a criminal faction within these Jesuits. I'm certainly not saying all Catholics are bad, nor am I saying all CIA is bad or all politicians. There's good and bad in everything. But nevertheless, Pierre Trudeau represented this criminal faction of the Catholic Church, of the Jesuits, who believed in mind control of the masses. Another sexual abuser of mine was then Michigan Senator and later U.S. Congressman Guy Vanderjagt. This is the same Guy Vanderjagt that went on to head the Republican National Committee that put George Bush into the office of president. It was at Mackinac Island, Michigan, when I was 13 years old, that I was dedicated to the senator who had become my owner in this mind control project. That's U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd. Senator Byrd is a Democrat from West Virginia. And again, as you'll notice as I reveal any names, that this doesn't have anything to do with party lines. Democrats and Republicans both are involved. Having made my first communion, I also endured an extra ritual after that was referred to as the right to remain silent. That's R-I-T-E, as in ritual. This involved Congressman Vanderjagt and the head of our church at that time, a Father Don. And they subjected me to an occult blood ritual. This was so horrific. It was this reversal of the Catholic Mass. It confused my mind because when a person's operating on a subconscious level because they're so traumatized that consciously there's no place for what they're enduring, the subconscious mind has no ability to discern and to question and to reason the same way that the conscious mind does. And this reversal of the Catholic Mass into occultism just made it all seem to run together in my mind. It was absolutely horrific. This blood ritual was so horrible that my mind readily accepted the mind manipulation that I endured afterwards, a hypnotic language, the neuro-linguistic programming, mind-controlled programming that actually changed the way that my brain was functioning. With this right to remain silent, I also had a silence in my head after that, because up until that time, I heard, it was just my own voice, but I heard my voice arguing back and forth with all these different perceptions and from the different compartments in order that I could formulate some kind of a decision about things. I remember before the right to remain silent that I had some free thoughts of my own, and I had hoped for a place in the world where people didn't abuse each other. I'd hoped to have 10 children that I knew would be at least 10 children in this world that weren't abused. I'd hoped for those things, but with the right to remain silent, I lost my capacity, my ability for free will thinking. I lost my ability to even hope anymore. I lost all free will entirely. This right to remain silent silenced this argument that always went on in my head, and instead, all I ever heard from that point on was the voices of my abusers directing me, telling me exactly what it was I was supposed to do. I could only robotically follow those instructions and carry them out. Again, occultism is oftentimes used as a trauma base for mind control. Who can comprehend that kind of a trauma? Blood ritual is absolutely horrible, and it's a perfect trauma base for mind control. My sexual experience with Bill Clinton was extremely limited, in spite of the fact that I was a sex slave. It was my experience that Bill Clinton is bisexual, leaning far more towards a homosexual end. All I've ever seen him involved in was a homosexual activity, with very limited experience with him myself. Whereas my experience was much more prevalent with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary is also bisexual, leaning more towards a homosexual end, and it was she who accessed my sex programming to fulfill her perversions. In 1983, Senator Byrd had acted in the capacity of a pimp and prostituted me to Reagan, and I was present at this White House cocktail party. Now, Ronald Reagan certainly provided a wonderful smoke and mirrors illusion for all of us. For those of you who don't want to believe that he's involved in this, he told you he's an actor. And he did a real good job of it for a long time. That was his role. That's what he was supposed to do.
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush. I have seen Madeleine Albright. I have seen Henry Kissinger. I have seen Ronald Reagan. And I have also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton at the time at these rituals. She is involved. J. Rockefeller. Gerald Ford, these people seem to all be connected. I've seen all of them drink human blood and consume human flesh, and they have their own goblets in which they have blood, and these goblets are encrusted with jewels.
The children who are not sacrificed are used as sex slaves and mind control subjects. The criminal elements of the government who use mind control use the CIA-created MKUltra Monarch programming. This was introduced to the US by the Nazis after the US immigrated Nazi scientists from concentration camps under Project Paperclip in 1945. These mind-controlled subjects are kept up until the age of 30 when they are then killed. The rituals are usually filmed as a means of keeping politicians under control by blackmail. Weird occultic rituals also take place in Hollywood. Angelina Jolie has been caught on tape discussing weird rituals she has witnessed.
It's like I would film things like that. I would encourage like everybody, all different types of sexual, but there is that thing where it's like a lot of people misunderstand me with S&M and they think it's super, and I have to like explain to people how, like, where it's more like you're tied down because you need to like be able to like have something hold you down and keep you still, or like you can fight to have something out, or like be able to heal once you're beaten, like, or something. It's like it comes from that real place of like, you know, as opposed to being accessories or something. Like that's what kind of, it's like with tattoos and things. Like I've always gotten them. There's like that time where everybody's like, oh, I have tattoos, and after a while, you're like, you can explain them and they can mean something. It's just comes from that real place. Yeah, I don't know. I only saw that film she brought over that night. People were like darker, like that kind of, you know, but. It's a great thing to be able to like see everybody's sexual, like just sexuality, but it's so weird when you just. I had like the most amazing compromising pictures of people.
These videotapes are known as fame porn. With the recent Hollywood and political scandal of sexual abuse, more information about these tapes have come out. Some involve snuff films which are sold within these underground pornographic markets. Global elites sacrifice a human effigy during a ritual known as the Cremation of Care at the Bohemian Grove in July of every year. This ritual was caught on tape by Alex Jones on July 15, 2000 after he infiltrated the grove.
Fire shall have its will of thee, beyond all care, and all the winds they bury with thy dust. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame, once again midsummer sets us free.
They sacrificed to a giant statue of an owl. This owl was known as Minerva, also known as the Owl of Athena. The owl is an ancient Roman and Greek goddess of wisdom and knowledge. Its practices and beliefs include cults, temples, funerals, and sacrifices. The owl was originally the insignia of the Illuminati, founded on May 1st, 1776. The Illuminati were a secret society whose goals was for a new world order to control the population without dominating them by giving them small freedoms. The Illuminati continue today. They're globalists who want globalism for a one-world government.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
So why are people harvesting children's adrenochrome? In ancient times, they sacrificed children for the gods. This is where we get into the rabbit hole. These gods are extraterrestrials who are believed to have been visiting the Earth in ancient times and are still on Earth today. When researching adrenochrome, victims of the rituals claim the people conducting the ritual were doing it for aliens which are seen as demons.
These guys who are manipulating my mind and programming me for mind control purposes claimed, and these criminals in control of our country as well, claimed to be gods, demons, and aliens. So it was easy for me to accept the idea that what was happening was in fact being perpetrated by aliens. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as aliens. That would be foolish of me to even say anything like that at all. But what I am saying is that it was my experience that these were people claiming to be aliens. If there's a reality out there pertaining to any alien influence, we need to sort out the government misinformation and disinformation and mind manipulation techniques that they're using. I know for a fact that the plan is to make all of us feel totally helpless, that what's happening is beyond our realm to affect because we've been taken over by aliens.
As the sacrifice is going on, the victim is also releasing energy, very powerful, low vibrational energy, and the entities, or entity, whatever it is, just outside of visible light is feeding off that energy. They're feeding off us like vampires in so many ways, and that's one of them, and one of the reasons for these sacrifices of people to the gods. The other thing is that and I've talked to Satanists who've seen this happen, or former Satanists around the world, they create an energetic environment which is almost a stepping stone, like halfway house, which allows these entities to come in to the ritual. I've talked to people who've seen these entities manifest in the rituals because of the way they have created the energetic environment.
They materialize from out of another dimension and are present at rituals, and they are so powerful, and their presence is there's such an evilness about them, and they want out of this other dimension. Old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons.
When researching, you come across alien species who governments of the world have been working with while keeping the global population in the dark. The alien species include both malevolent and benevolent aliens.
Number one, I would like to say that, there's a lot of confusion that not all reticulans are evil. There are some reticulans that are incredible healers, that are incredibly benevolent. Unfortunately, most of them are getting a bad rap right now because of what the Greys are doing, and there are 5 different subspecies of Greys.
May I interject here for a moment? I've heard the phrase long-nosed Grey describing their physical character.
Those are not the benevolent reticulans.
Okay.
The benevolent reticulans look like children. They're incredible masters of mind manipulation, and that is that they actually feed off the energy. They're vampires. They feed off the energy. They can even bottle the energy and use it for later times. They're also stealing the vital bodies of human beings and storing it. So, they're just doing some really horrific things here that other races just simply wouldn't conceive of doing. If they try to project their thoughts into your head, you just stand firm with who you are and you say, no, you are not coming into my head, you are not taking me over, and you are not going to violate my free will. I don't give a damn who you are. Leave me alone. Period. Because if it's a benevolent, they will not try to do it. They will not try to take you over. They will not try to put crap into your head so they can feed off of your fear. Period.
The Greys are from the Zeta Reticuli star system. There are many different types of Greys. The Gnostics called the aliens Archons and described the Greys as looking like a human fetus with dark, unmoving eyes.
Evolved. Wait a minute. They're not evolved, that's just the way they look. It's like a fetus. Like what? Fetus. A fetus? Yeah. A grown fetus. It can't even be 4 feet tall. How tall? 4.5 feet. They can't even be that tall.
They called the Greys mind parasites. The Greys are supposedly energy vampires. We are creating our own reality through temporal causality loops and radiation emissions of human thought into zero-point energy fields. These fields are also known as zero-point fields, the M field, and the morphic field. As I've described this in a previous documentary, I won't describe it here. Human thought radiation emissions given off into these fields create constructive and destructive interference. This is how relationships are formed. The Greys supposedly have the ability to intercept these fields and project thoughts into our minds, manipulating our free will, making us carry out horrific acts. They do this as they feed off the negative energy given off by human subjects during the actions. The Greys are able to make appearances in the third density, giving us sightings. However, they hide within the fourth density to feed off our energy without us knowing it. These orbs are beyond the visible wavelength, making them invisible to the naked eye. However, they surround us right now. They have been captured on infrared camera many times. NASA is the most notable cause, but the Mexican military also caught them on camera. Many people on YouTube also caught these orbs on camera. They've been captured hundreds, if not thousands of times. Dr. Klaus Hinneman, a former NASA employee, wrote a book called The Orb Project. In the book, he reported that under controlled conditions, using multiple cameras, it appeared that the orb showed some type of intelligence when asked to appear on camera by the photographer. When the Mexican military caught them on camera on March 5, 2004, the pilots claimed they felt as if the orbs knew they were under surveillance. A man who captured these orbs on camera asked them to put on a show, in which they replied to,
"Come on, give us a show, little critters." Wow.
As the orbs resonate on a wavelength beyond visible light, it means they can see us, but we can't see them. So what are they? Trevor James Constable, a former Marine, was one of the first people to photograph these orbs. After reading several books about esoteric energy and doing research of his own, he decided to investigate, so set up ultraviolet and infrared cameras. He caught the same orbs on tape, translucent with a hole in the center. After reviewing his pictures and extending in further research, Trevor had come to a conclusion. He believes that orbs are an amobia-like form of life which exist on Earth and in the universe beyond our sight. He also claimed when provoked, they become predatory. The other malevolent aliens are from the Alpha Draconian star system. These are known as reptoids or Alpha Draconians.
There's the Orion group as well, and there's 141 of them here. And they're from Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Rigel, and Betelgeuse. From that particular group, that particular area of the star system. The Orion group has been genetically manipulated and have been deeply entrenched in Draconian belief systems. So they're carrying that energy or that torch for whatever their agendas are, as well as their own agendas. Okay, the reticulant, the Greys have been controlled and manipulated by the Orion group. So there is a system, a class system here that's been established, and this is very common in the non-benevolent or regressive extraterrestrial structures, where there's a class system of workers, warriors, administrative or priests, and then the hierarchy, the royalty. And the lower you are, the worse you're treated. We have a history of that here on our planet as well. You know, and we've been taught this by the aliens themselves. There are a lot of agendas here, hidden agendas. And you have to understand that some of the races, for example, the Draconians. The Draconians themselves did not evolve as a life form in our universe. They were dumped here. Their whole thing is control, domination. And because there's no race in our universe that can really beat them up and wipe them out, they don't have to choose light or dark. They're just where they are. And they've chosen the opposite polarity. They were dumped in Alpha Draconis. Nobody knows exactly where they came from, and my understanding is that even in their ancient history, they don't know exactly where they came from. But they were left in Alpha Draconis because that particular system offered them the highest probability of survival. And from there, they were able to create craft, space travel. I mean, they're magnificent in what they did, and they're to be commended for what they did. But the fact that they need to control and dominate and manipulate to the degree, sorry, I have a problem with that. And so does half of the galaxy. That's just the way they are. They're the biggest bully. Nobody can beat them up or wipe them out, so therefore they have no motivation to change.
What was the nature of their colony here?
Well, they're Hyperborean. Basically, they're explorers. and they're also genetic engineers. There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. Their preference is children. You know, and we've been told, you shouldn't talk about that. You know, there are other people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, you know, bull. You know, why not? They're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. That's tough. You know, Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in the Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconans?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there.
What is the ultimate agenda then of the Alpha Draconans in relation to Earth and to this part of the galaxy?
They do not want our galaxy to move into fourth and fifth density consciousness because they lose complete power.
But it will anyway, won't it?
Not necessarily. There are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. There's no guarantee that Earth is going to go into fourth or fifth density. There's no guarantees that the entire galaxy is going to get there. Because if that were the case, they would probably just leave us alone and not give a damn what was happening here. No. You see, the Draconans are third density. They're physical just like us. They can only move into fourth density by mechanical means. If we move into fourth and fifth density, they've lost their playground. They've lost control of what they want to control. So they're fighting like hell trying to hold everything back. Because if they can hold everything back, then again, it's a form of power, of control. You've got the Greys over us, you've got the reptilians underneath us, and between us you've got humanity, of the human, you've got the American people, I mean all of the world, but you've got humanity sandwiched in the middle, wondering what the hell is going on here.
These are who the adrenochrome harvesting rituals are carried out for. The Greys are ruled by the Orion group, who are ultimately ruled by the Alpha Draconians. Alpha Draconians are believed to inhabit the Earth in underground bases. Phil Schneider, a former US government geologist and engineer, had over 17 years of experience working on classified government projects. He was involved with inventing shape-charged explosives to construct underground military bases. He carries a level 3 security clearance. Phil claimed as of 1995 there are 131 underground military bases in the US and 1,477 bases worldwide. Phil claimed of these 131 underground bases, at least 65 are used as underground cities and transport systems for the aliens. Phil claimed world militaries have been involved in a secret underground war with aliens ranging from small greys to tall greys and reptilians. He said these aliens have lived underground for at least 400 years. 2 weeks before releasing this information, Phil was shot in the shoulder in an attempt to take his life. In self-defense, he killed the shooter. He had an additional 11 attempts on his life, and his daughter was also kidnapped. A few months after releasing this information, Phil was found dead in his home in bizarre circumstances.
I'm Phil Schneider. I spent 17 years in black budget programs, government geologist, as engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. The alien thing is more than just what I'd call a non-visible threat. We on the surface, first of all information dealing with alien or alien reproduced technology or alien reproduced vehicles or any other kinds of things well hidden from the American public. Our black budget, for instance, garners $1.023 trillion every 2 years. It's over $500 billion a year. Right now, there are 131 active deep underground military bases in the United States. There's 1,477 of them worldwide. Each one has an average cost of of $17 to $19 billion. Each one is built in the site. It used to be it'd take a year to 2 years to build each one, and now they're capable of building a couple of them a year with sophisticated methods. My colleague Al Bielik has actually been on some of the high-speed railways, the magneto-leviton trains that connect all the deep underground military bases within the United States. He's been on a Mach 2 train and floats off of a single rail at a 3/4 of an inch off the rail, and is what you'd call high tech. We have nothing like this on the surface. The public basically has been totally lied to. We're considered stupid or even moronic in some cases. It's got to stop. Area 51 is only one base, one of the 131 bases. Of these 131 bases, I call Area 51 a mega base. It's got more than one base in it. It's Tonopah Test Range, Area 51, S2, S4, Groom Lake, and a host of others.
Have they told you anything about Area 51 or Dulce, New Mexico?
Yeah, there were a lot of stuff there. The actual underground base is not underneath Archuleta Mesa. It's actually 20 miles to the northwest. That's just an entrance point in and out.
This is Area 51?
This is in New Mexico, Dulce.
Okay.
It's not exactly right there. As far as Area 51, yes, there's a lot of stuff that was going on there, but a lot of that has been moved, and it's now in New Mexico, in the Sandia, underneath the Sandia Laboratory.
I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. The equipment kept coming up broken, so we wanted to go down and we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years. It had been one of their internal bases. And we'd drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up, and well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all started. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person or the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes, you got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me, All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. Our United States government lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians, the whole thing. There are 11 distinct races of aliens. The alien agenda is the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of 5, 6 to 7/8 of the world's population by the year 2029. U.S. military has known about this for 45 years. Back in 1954, I'll give you a quick overview. There was the created 1954 treaty where Eisenhower signed a pact with the known alien species of the time. There were 3 at the time. And said that we're going to deal in high technology, but you can take a few head of cattle and a few human beings and you can experiment on them.
They dangled a technological carrot to the government, and the government took the bait. They said, sure, you know, for their own reasons, they took the bait. And there was an exchange of technology, you know, and there was a treaty that was signed. And this is a dilemma that the Andromedan Council has. You know, if the United States military had said, go away, the Greys would have had to have left.
So was this the Air Force Base situation or the Eisenhower situation where he had representatives? Is this the one that took place in the 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and this was with the long-nosed Greys then?
That's true, and there were 2 groups there as well. The 7 from Sirius B, who are still here, were also witnesses to this, to add credence to it.
Does the alien agenda dictate the agenda of the world globalists right now, the people that want world government?
Yes, they do in total and entirety. They may even be in charge. The New World Order, the alien agenda is one and the same. It's world takeover and the decimation of the population of this planet. Now, I'm going to tell you something a little bit different about the alien species. The bad news ones, there are 9 races of alien populations. To look at a human being as a bag of food. They're not cannibals. They don't eat the flesh and the bones and all that kind of stuff. They use the glandular secretions of animals and human beings as a mixture of the vitamins for their food. They get high off of our adrenal gland substances called adrenochrome. But right now, if we do nothing, we can do nothing about it, and it'll continue to go on. Basically, we'll be led in the dark, and you'll keep seeing more and more people disappear. Right now, there's 100,000 children totally unaccountable through FBI archives, cannot be traced anywhere. They haven't been murdered. Nobody's ever seen them. I think they're hauled underneath in some of these bases, and they are summarily done away with, and they are literally eaten.
That reptilians and Draco, you know, the blood sacrifices, the whole Luciferian thing, the kids being killed and eaten. I mean, that humans have been eaten and taken off planet, et cetera, and used for slaves in other colonies, etc.
I hate to say that, but that's far worse than what you've just said.
It's far worse.
Yes, far worse.
Far worse, yeah.
And that the whole blood situation is it's unbelievable, and
right.
I don't know how we say that to the public. I don't know how. To me, if we get into that, and I know all about it, okay?
All right.
Far more than you know.
Sure,
all right?
I'm sure.
When we get into that, if we release it, 70–80% of everybody that listens to your program is going to say, you're smoking pot. I don't believe that, and I don't believe anything you people talk about on extraterrestrial. That's my opinion.
But you know the pedophilia is starting to be exposed everywhere. You know that much is coming out.
Oh, yeah.
These pedophiles are possessed by these entities that stimulate the desire for sex with children, and while it's happening, they are, through the vehicle of the pedophile, drawing off the child's energy. That Australian Satanist said this in that document: politicians are introduced by a carefully graded set of criteria and situations that enable them to accept that their victims will be our little secret. Young children sexually molested and physically abused by politicians worldwide are quickly used as sacrifices. In Australia, the bodies are never discovered, for Australia is still a wilderness. And this is what is going on. This is what Ted Heath was doing. And this is why this guy got away with it all those decades. He was supplying children to the rich and famous, and if he went down, they all went down. That's why he was never prosecuted, even though they knew what he was doing. He is a doorway to the cesspit because he was the doorway to so many of the rich and famous. So we've got all these kind of pedophiles, famous pedophiles. Thomas Hamilton, the guy who killed all those kids in Dunblane, he was a paedophile and supplier of children to the rich and famous in Scotland. Ted Heath, I talked about. George Bush, I've come to him. Kissinger. And this man, Lord Mountbatten, member of the royal family, of course, inner royal family, was a known paedophile. And who did Jimmy Savile say publicly, not in this context, of course, introduced him into the inner circle of the royal family in the 1960s? Lord Mountbatten, the mentor of Prince Charles and Prince Philip. The reason they're desperately trying to put the lid on this is very simple. When the truth comes out about all this, the political and royal establishment will collapse. That's why they're trying to do it.
Ex-Secret Service agent threatens to drop new details about Bill Clinton and Lolita Express, the admitted pedophile plane flying children to the Caribbean island that Bill Clinton flew to, that Kevin Spacey was on, that Harvey Weinstein was on. Lolita Express was used to transfer kidnapped kids to this sex island. This is all confirmed in court, okay? And you've got Epstein flying it, you got Bill Clinton, you got Harvey Weinstein, you've got all the usual suspects, Kevin Spacey, on board this aircraft. Epstein pled guilty, okay, to crimes with children. Epstein had hundreds of flights with kids to the Middle East, to known sheiks that are pedophiles legally under Islam. Bill Clinton was on the plane, Hillary was on the plane.
But you know the part that I don't want to talk about.
I hear you.
Okay?
Yeah. Saying as much as you said right now is actually great.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you basically are, anyone who's hearing everything else you say is going to have to come to home with this. And if they want to know more, it's out there. It's more and more, it's out there.
Yeah.
My philosophy on this, which is humans are not protecting themselves. They're not protected. And so if you don't warn them, you're culpable. The next time somebody gets snatched and eaten or taken away, or their child, and I'm more concerned about the children, obviously, than anything else.
That's
you know.
That's it. Well, that's what.
And so that's my statement. My statement is, I care about the children, and I want to protect the children. How can you protect a child? You must tell them. You must tell their parents what's happening, what's really going on this planet.
They're ugly looking, lizard, alligator type people. They got the same skin as the lizards got, okay? And terrible looking faces.
But mind you, these are not human forms.
Okay.
That's the interesting thing to realize. One of the ones that we've encountered most, oddly enough, is we call it the alligator system.
Okay.
Because the physical body there, it resembles very much an alligator.
Okay.
But it has an intelligence equal or superior to ours.
But they look like alligators.
They look like alligators.
What is a lifespan for one of these alligator type?
Oh, about, as near as we can figure it, about 300 years of our type of years.
They're ugly. I mean, they think we're ugly too, and I guess it's all a matter of perspective and belief system. In my belief system, and I'm only taking responsibility for me, they're ugly. They're anywhere from 7 to 22 feet tall. They can weigh up to 1,800 pounds. They're reptilian. Whenever you see one, you ought to just run like hell. You shouldn't approach it. You shouldn't provoke it. Just get the hell out of its way. Just get out of its way. Just run. There is a way to kill them. If you can't cut off their head, they have two hearts. There's one here, underneath this armpit, and one here. Or if you can't get to that area and you need to slow it down, you need to hit it right above its groin area. It has a very large liver. You need to wound it there.
And these were the peoples who first told me about a race of highly intelligent beings, which they called the Chitauri, the talkers, a race of creatures which look like reptiles, who have ruled the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
If the aliens have a 1,200 IQ, can speak all these languages, and are so powerful, what prevents them from just taking over?
Well, it's a good question. Basically, they have taken over. All that's left is a bunch of screaming, a bunch of us that have been very complacent. Half of the 131 deep underground military bases are basic cities for them. Right underneath our feet is a macabre sight indeed. You can bet your bottom dollar they've already basically won the war. However, they're being an alien species, we're an alien species to them, and our germs have a tendency to kill them. They're also a dying race, and they're in far worse condition than anybody with the worst case of terminal cancer. They are in need of us to some degree.
Oh, it was really something to me to find out people didn't know about this stuff. I mean, it was so obvious to me. I didn't realize that people were unaware and had bought into some kind of smoke and mirrors illusions of what was going on and never thought to look behind the scenes to what was really going on. But I understand good people don't think that way. They don't have criminal minds. They don't think to look for that kind of criminal activity. Just like these guys are limited in their thinking by immorality, good people are kind of blinded from that kind of criminal activity until their eyes are open to truth. This information is information that you have a right to know and a need to know, and their controlled medias are not going to suppress truth. Truth prevails.
There are two different blood types humans carry, those being Rh positive and Rh negative. Rh stands for the rhesus factor. This is a protein in the blood which shows humans evolved from monkeys. 85% of the population have Rh positive blood, meaning they carry the protein showing they evolved from monkeys. 15% of the population have Rh negative blood. This blood type got the nickname alien blood as it is missing the protein. When a Rh negative mother has a baby with a Rh positive father, if the baby inherits the Rh positive blood, the mother's immune system, upon finding an antigen foreign to its body, will produce antibodies which will begin to kill the fetus. This leads to the baby being born prematurely for a C-section and lowers its chance of survival. This is known as Rh disease. Some claim there are different blood types due to mutations and copper deficiency. Others claim it's due to alien manipulation.
Our real manipulation really started about 14,000 years ago, when the Orion group started manipulating our DNA structure.
When researching adrenochrome harvesting, the babies born like this are known as hybrid bloodlines, also known as demigods. This is as they inherit blood from the gods being the alien races. Many ancient civilizations wrote about DNA manipulation by an outside force. These were known as the Nephilim, who were said to be the sons of gods breeding with the daughters of men. David Icke traced genealogy and bloodlines back to ancient Babylon. This was a key kingdom in ancient Mesopotamia dating back to 2300 BC. Before this, a prehistoric period in Mesopotamia was known as the Ubaid period. This was from 6500 BC to 3800 BC. These depictions of reptilian beings were found from the Ubaid period. period. They show the reptilians holding or feeding babies. The ancient emperors of China used to claim the right to be emperors due to their descendants of the serpent gods. According to David Icke's research, the hybrid born due to the fusion of DNA are more accessible by these entities controlling them to rule. These bloodlines have become known as the Illuminati bloodlines, which are ultimately controlling the world.
And you're saying Trump isn't one?
No, he's not. Okay.
Well, that's a relief.
And and he knows more about this subject than people realize.
Join the fight against the reptilians and Dracos that are basically plundering the galaxies, taking over planets, etc. And you've said something very similar to that.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I'm just saying that this is our situation.
I was born from an O-negative mother and a positive father, leading to me being born 6 weeks prematurely, being placed in the ICU. So according to this research, I would be considered a hybrid. The bottom of the rabbit hole of the Hollywood and political elite sexual abuse and paedophilia scandals includes satanic blood drinking rituals carried out by political and Hollywood elite who are in turn doing it to communicate with extraterrestrials. These extraterrestrials not only inhabit the skies above us but the ground beneath. They're believed to make themselves known by the year 2029. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to give it a big thumbs up, and I've got new music coming soon, so stay tuned. Goodbye.